I'll be staying at Jake's tonight, don't wait up. That was the text that shattered everything. Not a fight. Not a whispered confession. Not even a messy argument in person. Just a flat, four-sentence message glowing on a phone screen. Imagine it. You've been with someone for years, through the good mornings, the late-night takeout runs, the inside jokes that no one else gets. You think you know them. You trust them. And then, out of nowhere, they tell you they're spending the night at another man's place, no explanation. No apology. Just a casual dismissal, as if your feelings don't even register. That's where our story begins tonight. And trust me, what happens after that text isn't just betrayal. It's a slow unraveling of lies, hidden patterns, and one of the coldest breakups you'll ever hear. Because here's the thing, when you've been with someone for more than 2 years, when you've talked about moving in together, when you've daydreamed about proposals and futures, a message like that doesn't just sting. It detonates. And for the narrator of this story, it lit a fuse that was impossible to put out. But before we dive deeper into the fallout, let's pause for a second. Because I want you to picture this exact moment. You're sitting on the couch, maybe eating leftovers, maybe half watching Netflix, just winding down from an ordinary day. Your partner told you they were out with coworkers. Nothing unusual. Everything feels normal. And then ping. Your phone lights up. You smile, expecting a check-in text. Maybe a "be home soon" or a funny picture from the bar. Instead you see, "I'll be staying at Jake's tonight, don't wait up." Now tell me honestly, would your stomach drop? Would you freeze, rereading it, hoping you misunderstood? Or would you instantly know deep down that everything you thought you had is gone? Because that's exactly the crossroads our narrator found themselves at. And the way they responded, the way this entire messy story played out, well, let's just say, it wasn't what Emily, the girlfriend, was expecting. Not at all. Now, I'm going to take you step by step through what happened next. The confusion, the anger, the desperate need for answers, and the final jaw-dropping response that turned this relationship completely upside down. But before we get into Act 1 and unpack all the messy details, let me just say this. This story took a lot of work to bring to life for you. And if you enjoy hearing these wild Reddit-style relationship dramas, please make sure to hit subscribe. It really helps keep me motivated to share more with you, and trust me, the next story might just be even crazier. So let's rewind a little. Before that devastating text popped up on the screen, everything in the narrator's life seemed ordinary. Stable, even. His name? Let's just call him Mark. And his girlfriend, Emily, they'd been together for about 2.5 years. Not a brand new couple, not quite forever married either. Somewhere in that in-between stage where the comfort runs deep, but so do the expectations. They'd been talking about the future, scrolling through apartment listings together, joking about engagement rings, half seriously arguing over what color couch they'd get once they moved in. On paper, they were a good match. Mark was a freelance designer, working mostly from home. Emily was in marketing at a mid-sized firm. Different worlds, but that gave them things to talk about. And for the most part it worked. Now, of course, no relationship is perfect. They had their bumps. Emily often stayed late at work, which sometimes frustrated Mark. Meanwhile, Mark could get so buried in his freelance projects that he forgot to check in. But hey, what couple doesn't have those little friction points, right? Nothing ever screamed red flag. Nothing until Jake. Jake wasn't exactly a stranger. Mark had heard the name before. Emily would mention him here and there, the funny guy at the office, the one who made meetings tolerable, the social glue in their department. The first time Mark heard about Jake was in passing. Emily came home after a long night working on a big project and casually dropped, "Oh, thank God Jake was there. He cracked some jokes that kept us awake. We'd have gone insane otherwise." Harmless, right? Just a coworker. Then there was the night Jake gave her a ride home because she had stayed late and missed her bus. Again, Emily brushed it off. "Don't worry, he's just a friend. You'd actually like him." At the time, Mark believed her. Because why wouldn't he? Trust is the foundation of any relationship. But looking back, every one of those little details started stacking up like warning signs he had ignored. Now fast forward to the night of the text. Mark had just finished dinner, reheated leftovers, nothing special. He was settling into his couch, planning to knock out a few emails before bed. Emily had told him earlier she'd be out celebrating with her co-workers after their project presentation wrapped up. Totally normal at 6:30, she texted him, Heading out now with the team. Don't stay up too late, sweet. Routine. Nothing unusual. But 3 hours later, when the phone buzzed again, everything normal shattered. I'll be staying at Jake's tonight. Don't wait up. No context. No explanation. Just that. Mark froze. He read it once. Twice. 3 times. His chest tightened, and his brain scrambled for rational explanations. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she typed the wrong name. Maybe it was meant for someone else. But deep down he knew. He knew exactly what it meant. Imagine being in his shoes for a second. You've built 2.5 years with someone. You've laughed together, fought together, loved together. You've made plans for a shared future. And then with one casual message, it all feels meaningless. It's not just the act of betrayal that stings. It's how casual it was. The way she wrote it, like she was telling him she'd be picking up milk on the way home. Like his emotions didn't even register, Mark's mind went into overdrive. He thought about every late night she claimed to be working. Every sudden phone call she'd take outside. Every time she dressed a little nicer than usual for just the office. Was this the night the truth finally slipped out? Or had it been going on much longer? His first instinct was to respond. He typed and deleted 3 drafts. What do you mean? Are you serious? Why? None of them captured the storm inside him. None felt strong enough. Finally, he settled on, I don't understand. What's going on? He hit send. Watched the screen. The little delivered checkmark appeared. But no reply came. Minutes dragged by like hours. His leg bounced uncontrollably. His chest tightened. Every second of silence screamed louder than words ever could. To that point, Mark realized something gutting. Emily hadn't just slipped up. She hadn't just accidentally stayed too late or worded something wrong. She was making a choice. A choice that excluded him. And as he sat in that dimly lit room, phone clutched in his hand, one question echoed louder than all the rest. Why Jake? Why him of all people? And more importantly, what did this mean for them? For everything they had built. And with that, Mark's quiet evening turned into a sleepless night of suspicion, anger, and a desperate search for clarity. But what came next? Well, that's when the conflict started to spill over from private doubts to a very real confrontation. Because Emily wasn't going to be able to hide behind silence forever. The hours after that text were torture. Mark couldn't sleep. He couldn't even sit still. Every time he picked up his phone, the screen mocked him with silence. No response, no clarification, no excuse. Just the brutal finality of her last words. I'll be staying at Jake's tonight, don't wait up. By 1 a.m., Mark's thoughts were a carousel of confusion and anger. He wanted to call her, to demand answers. But another part of him whispered, what if she doesn't answer? What if she's really, with him right now? That thought alone made his stomach twist. He tossed his phone onto the couch, stood up, paced the room, sat down, picked it back up again. He couldn't escape the loop. Finally, he gave in. He dialed her number. Ring, ring, ring. No answer. Straight to voicemail, he tried again. Same thing. That was when the sinking realization hit him. Her phone wasn't off by accident. It was off on purpose. By morning, Mark's emotions had shifted from confusion to something sharper. Betrayal burns, but silence? Silence cuts deeper. At 8 a.m., he fired off another text. Emily, we need to talk. I don't understand what's going on. No reply to by noon, still nothing. His chest felt like a vice. It wasn't just the absence of an explanation, it was the blatant avoidance. She was dodging him. When she finally did text back, it wasn't what he expected. 1:17 p.m., a new message popped up. I'll explain later. Don't make this a big deal. Don't make this a big deal. Mark nearly dropped his phone. His jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Imagine that. Someone you love disappears overnight, admits to staying at another man's place, ignores your calls, and then tells you, you're the one overreacting. That was the spark. That single phrase lit the fire that turned private suspicion into open conflict. Mark's reply came fast, his thumbs moving before his brain could catch up. How is this not a big deal? You told me you were out with coworkers. Then you say you're at Jake's? You disappear all night? Emily, what are you doing? This time, she didn't leave him waiting. 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, her response landed, "You're blowing this out of proportion. Jake is just a friend. We were drinking, it got late, and I didn't feel like coming all the way home. That's it." Mark stared at the screen, disbelief flooding him. Just a friend? Since when do you stay overnight at a friend's house without even mentioning it first? He typed back. Then why didn't you answer my calls? Why avoid me if it was that innocent? Another pause. Another reply. Because I knew you'd freak out like this. I just needed space. Space. That word was a dagger. They had never once talked about needing space. They were supposed to be building a future. And now she was throwing out excuses that didn't line up. The argument spiraled. Message after message flew back and forth. You don't respect me if you think this is okay. You're being controlling. No, I'm being blindsided. You don't trust me, and that's the problem. Trust? You disappeared to another man's house without telling me. Every exchange pulled them further apart. By the end of it, Emily stopped replying altogether. Another wall of silence. Another night where Mark sat alone, replaying every word, every unanswered question. And here's where things got worse. Because betrayal in private is one thing. But when it starts leaking into the outside world, that's when the humiliation really sets in. The next day, Mark got a call from his buddy Chris. "Hey man, are you okay?" Mark frowned. Why? Because Emily posted on her story last night. She was at Jake's place. Looked like a party or something. She tagged him. "People are talking, dude." Mark felt his chest cave in. Not only was she at Jake's, but now the whole thing was playing out in public. Friends were seeing it. People knew. And he was left looking like the fool. He quickly opened Instagram. Sure enough, there it was, Emily, drink in hand, leaning against Jake on a couch. Her caption? "Work fam nights." Mark's fingers shook as he stared at the photo. She hadn't hidden it. She wasn't even trying to. And the worst part? She looked happy. Carefree. As if her relationship with Mark didn't even exist. That was the tipping point. Mark realized he couldn't just sit quietly anymore, waiting for her to hand him scraps of half-truths. He needed answers. Real ones. So that night, he texted her again, but this time it wasn't a plea. It was an ultimatum. "We need to talk in person. Tomorrow. No excuses. If you don't show up, I'll take that as my answer." "This time," she replied almost instantly. "Fine. Tomorrow evening." And with that, the stage was set for their first real confrontation. But here's the thing, when you demand the truth, you'd better be ready for what comes with it. Because Emily wasn't about to walk into that conversation with guilt or apologies. No. She came in defensive. Cold. And what she said next didn't just sting. It revealed just how far gone she already was. And that, my friends, is where things went from private suspicion and public embarrassment to a face-to-face showdown that would completely shift the balance of power between them. Because Emily wasn't just hiding something. She was daring him to call her bluff. The next evening, Mark sat at the cafe they had agreed on, nerves running hot and cold through his veins. He barely slept. Every time he pictured Emily laughing in Jake's Instagram story, it replayed like a knife twisting deeper. When she finally walked in, it was like a stranger had entered the room. Emily wasn't apologetic. She wasn't nervous. She looked calm. Too calm. Dressed sharp, hair done, phone in hand, like she had already decided she was in control. Mark swallowed hard. "So, you want to explain what that text was about?" She slid into the chair across from him, shrugged. "I already told you. We were out, I didn't want to drive, I crashed at Jake's. That's it. That's it." Mark's voice cracked. "Do you hear yourself? You didn't even bother telling me until after you were already there. You ignored my calls. Then you posted online like I don't exist. Do you know how humiliating that is?" Emily sighed, leaning back. "You're being dramatic. It was one night. I needed space. You're making it sound like I cheated or something." Mark's jaw clenched. "And did you?" That's when she smirked, just a flicker, but enough to make his blood run cold. "Does it matter?" she asked. Those 3 words shifted the power in the room. She wasn't denying it anymore. She wasn't even defending herself. She was testing him. That moment was the spark Mark needed. Because up until then, he was on the defensive, begging for answers, chasing after scraps. But her arrogance? Her casual dismissal? It flipped a switch in him, he realized. If she could treat him like a footnote, then she'd already made her choice. And now it was his turn to make his. So instead of shouting, instead of breaking down, he leaned back and said calmly, "You're right. It doesn't matter. Because I'm done." Emily blinked. Done. Mark nodded. Yeah. I'm not going to fight for someone who doesn't respect me. I'm not going to beg for scraps of your attention while you run around with Jake. If that's what you want, fine. But you don't get to keep me on the hook. For the first time, her confidence cracked. She shifted in her seat. Wait, you're just walking away? Mark held her gaze. Exactly. Walking away. But here's the thing, walking away wasn't enough. Emily had been playing games in public. Posting stories. Making him look like the clueless boyfriend. So if she wanted to play in public, Mark decided he'd respond in kind. That night, he gathered his receipts. Every unanswered text. Every ignored call. Every time she had slipped up in the past few weeks. He screenshotted her Instagram story with Jake. He pieced together a timeline that painted a crystal-clear picture. She hadn't just needed space. She'd been checked out long before that infamous text. And then, instead of confronting her again, he went quiet. No more begging. No more ultimatums. Just silence. Because silence, when timed right, can be louder than any fight. Emily noticed. Within 3 days, she was the one texting him. "Are you really not going to talk to me?" "Mark, this is childish." "Fine, if you want to act like a victim, go ahead." But Mark didn't bite. Instead, he started quietly moving his things out of her apartment. Packing up clothes, his computer setup, personal belongings. He wasn't just ending it emotionally, he was ending it logistically. The final blow came when mutual friends started asking questions. See, Emily had been bold enough to flaunt her nights with Jake. But when people realized she and Mark were over, and that she was the reason, the sympathy didn't go her way. One friend texted Mark privately, "Dude, I saw Emily with Jake at that party. I thought maybe you two were in an open thing? I'm so sorry, I didn't realize." Mark just replied, "We weren't. But thanks for letting me know." And here's where the power truly shifted. Because now, she was the one scrambling to manage appearances. She was the one dodging whispers at work, trying to justify why her long-term boyfriend had vanished while she cozied up to her coworker. Meanwhile, Mark? He stayed quiet. He let the evidence speak for itself. One night, Emily finally showed up at his door. "Mark, we need to talk." He opened the door just enough to lean against the frame. "There's nothing left to talk about." Her eyes darted nervously. "You can't just shut me out like this. We've been together for years." "You shut me out the moment you chose Jake," Mark said flatly. "You made your decision. I'm making mine." She tried softening her tone. "It wasn't what it looked like. You're blowing things out of proportion." Mark smirked, the same way she had in that cafe. "Funny. That's exactly what you said the first time. The difference is, I don't believe you anymore." And with that, he closed the door. That single act, choosing silence, choosing finality, was more powerful than any angry fight could have been. Because Emily had been expecting him to grovel, to rage, to fall apart. But instead, he turned the tables. He took away the one thing she thought she controlled, his attention. And suddenly, she wasn't the one in control anymore. But make no mistake, while the quiet strategy worked, the real climax of the story wasn't behind closed doors. Oh, the moment that truly sealed Emily's fate came later. At a party. In front of mutual friends. When her double life with Jake finally blew up for everyone to witness. And that was the moment of public payoff. It all came to a head at a friend's birthday party 2 weeks later. Mark hadn't planned on going. After everything, the last thing he wanted was to be in the same room as Emily and her new work fam. But his buddy Chris convinced him, "Dude, you've been hiding out long enough. Come. Have a drink. Show her you're not broken." And so reluctantly Mark went. When he walked in, the room buzzed with chatter, laughter, music. But within minutes, he felt it, eyes on him. Whispers. The weight of people knowing. Because by now, Emily's nights with Jake weren't just rumors. They were practically public knowledge. And there she was. Emily, sitting on the couch with Jake right beside her, his arm casually draped behind her. She looked up, saw Mark, and for the first time, her confidence cracked. Her smile faltered. Mark didn't flinch. He didn't storm over. He didn't cause a scene. He just nodded politely to a few friends, grabbed a drink, and settled into the opposite side of the room. Calm. Collected. Untouchable. That composure? It rattled her. An hour later, the tension snapped. Mark was chatting with a small group when suddenly, Emily approached. Jake trailed a few steps behind, smirking like he owned the place. "Mark," she said, her voice low but edged with irritation. "Can we talk?" He sipped his drink, raised an eyebrow. "What's left to say?" "You're making me look bad," she hissed. Mark nearly laughed. "I'm making you look bad? Emily, you did that all by yourself." The people nearby had quieted, ears pricking up. The air grew heavier. Jake stepped forward, trying to puff up. "Hey man, don't talk to her like that." Mark turned slowly, locking eyes with him. "Like what?" "The truth." The room was silent now. Conversations paused. Everyone was watching. Emily's cheeks flushed. "You don't need to humiliate me like this." Mark's voice stayed calm, measured, but cutting. "Humiliation? Emily, you texted me that you were staying at another man's house like it was no big deal. You ignored me for days. You posted it online for everyone to see. And now you're worried about being humiliated." A murmur rippled through the crowd. People exchanged glances. Jake shifted uncomfortably, suddenly not so smug. Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out. Mark leaned in slightly, lowering his voice but making sure those nearby could hear. "You chose him. That's fine. But don't rewrite the story to make me the villain. Everyone here saw what you did. And honestly, you're the one who has to live with that." And with that, he set down his drink, gave a polite nod to the group, and walked out. That was it. No yelling. No drama. Just composure and truth, delivered in front of the very people who had been whispering behind his back. Tea was the public payoff he didn't even know he needed. Because from that moment on, the narrative shifted. Emily wasn't the carefree girlfriend who needed space. She was the woman who betrayed a long-term relationship for a coworker, and everyone knew it. Jake? Well, let's just say his smirk didn't last long. Word around the office spread fast. And when coworkers realized he'd been the reason Emily's relationship imploded, suddenly he wasn't so funny anymore. Invitations dried up. People stopped laughing at his jokes. The social glue turned into social poison. Meanwhile, Mark? He walked out of that party with his dignity intact. And that moment at the party marked the true end. Not just of their relationship, but of the power Emily thought she had. Because once the truth was out there, she couldn't spin it anymore. She had lost the room. She had lost the narrative. And most importantly, she had lost Mark. And the weeks that followed the party, everything shifted. Emily tried once or twice to reach out. Not with apologies, but with half-hearted messages like, "Can we talk?" Or, "I think you misunderstood," but Mark never responded. He had nothing left to say. And strangely enough, that silence became his greatest power. Because while Emily spiraled, dealing with awkward stares at work, strained friendships, and the fading excitement of her fling with Jake, Mark's life began to rebuild in quiet, steady ways. He started running again. Picked up his guitar for the first time in months. Grabbed coffee with old friends he'd lost touch with. Piece by piece, he reclaimed the parts of himself that had been buried under compromise and stress. And here's the thing, healing didn't come in a dramatic movie moment. There was no grand revelation, no sudden burst of joy. It came in small wins. A morning jog that actually felt good. A night's sleep without waking up at 3 a.m. replaying her betrayal. A day where he realized he hadn't thought of her at all. Slowly, the weight lifted. But reflection brings its own questions. Mark often asked himself, did I miss the signs? Was it really about Jake, or was it about something deeper? And the answer he kept coming back to was simple. Sometimes, people show you who they are in the harshest, ugliest ways possible. And when they do, your only real choice is to believe them. Emily had shown him. In 4 sentences on a screen. I'll be staying at Jake's tonight. Don't wait up. That was the day she stopped being his girlfriend and revealed the truth. She had already checked out long before she sent that text. For Mark, the lesson was brutal, but clear. Love without respect isn't love. It's convenience. And when someone treats you as disposable, the most powerful response is to prove you aren't by walking away with dignity. He didn't just end the relationship. He ended the control she had over him. Months later, Mark heard that Emily and Jake had fizzled out. No surprise. But by then, it didn't matter. He was already on a different path, stronger, wiser, and more grounded than before. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't a perfect comeback or a dramatic scene. It's simply moving forward while the person who wronged you gets stuck in the mess they made. And that's exactly what Mark did. And that, my friends, is the story of how a single text unraveled a 2-year relationship, and how one man turned heartbreak into strength. If you enjoyed this story and want more wild relationship dramas, make sure to hit subscribe, drop a like, and share your thoughts below. Trust me, the next one might just be even crazier. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strong, and remember, sometimes the ending you didn't want is the beginning you truly need.